Sinn Féin has long been vocal in its support for the Palestinian people, but during this genocide, Palestinian and Irish activists have expressed growing dismay at how the political party has dragged its feet. First, Sinn Féin resisted calls to expel the Israeli ambassador from Dublin, and now it is refusing to heed demands that the party leaders boycott St. Patrick's Day festivities with President Joe Biden. Farrah Koutteineh has been a leading Palestinian voice in Ireland, pressing Sinn Féin and other politicians to stay away from the White House next month. She was recently thrown out of a Sinn Féin meeting in Belfast after she interrupted a speech by the Palestinian Authority representative in Ireland and called for the party to heed the boycott calls. Farrah is founder of Key 48, a voluntary collective calling for the immediate right of return of over 7.4 million Palestinian refugees. She joins us to talk about the debate in Ireland, and we're also joined by our very own colleague, David Cronin, one of whose recent articles is titled, "Ireland Must Disown Genocide Joe." Dave and Farrah, thank you so much for being with us on the Electronic Intifada live stream.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks very much.
Farrah, let's start with you. Talk about the action that you took in protest of Sinn Féin's support of Genocide Joe, as we have come to know.
I think we actually have the clip, so we could maybe start by showing some of that.
Sorry to interrupt you, Jeanne, and to interrupt you being a mouthpiece for the Palestinian Authority. They are a corrupt dictatorship who have not had an election since 2006. They intimidate. We're Palestinian. We're Palestinian. We're Palestinian. He's from Gaza. His family are from Gaza. Please listen to us. We've listened to you all night. Please. We're all from Palestine. We're all Palestinian. I'm Palestinian. He's got family in Gaza right now. Please listen to us. Boycott the White House. Boycott the White House. Do not go to St. Patrick's Day. Boycott the White House. Boycott the White House. Don't touch me. Boycott the White House. You can boycott the White House. I'm Palestinian and I'm Irish. Shame on you. There will not be a free Palestine without a united Ireland. Free Palestine, united Ireland. Boycott the White House. Boycott the White House.
Farrah, thank you for taking that stand. Talk a little bit about why you did it and what has happened since.
So last Wednesday was the day the event took place. It wasn't very well advertised. It was kind of advertised on the down low, obviously to prevent people like me who are very disappointed in Sinn Féin's complicity in this genocide by not taking a very clear stance on condemning Israel. So the event itself wasn't very well advertised. It was a group of us actually. It was a group of Palestinians based in Belfast in the north of Ireland. We found out that not only was Sinn Féin holding a quote unquote solidarity rally in a luxury hotel in a room with chandeliers, that not only was Sinn Féin holding this solidarity rally, but also it was hosting a Palestinian Authority ambassador, the PA ambassador to Ireland, and we felt very concerned that Sinn Féin was exploiting that to essentially use Ghislaine, to use the ambassador as a token Palestinian to justify them going to the White House. So we mobilized and we disrupted the end of the event. We wanted to see kind of what the talking points were, and at several different points, different elected officials from especially Declan Kearney, elected MLA in the north, he had actually mentioned going to the White House, and the reason they're going to the White House was to call for a ceasefire. So we kind of wanted to sit and listen to what they all had to say, and then we felt the need to amplify our voices. And we literally only spoke for about 10 seconds. We didn't really get to speak. And then we were swiftly manhandled by security, thrown out. All of us were Palestinians. And some of us were also Palestinians from Gaza. I was standing alongside someone who had lost their father just 2 weeks ago in Gaza. and we had bottles thrown at us by Sinn Féin supporters. Mr. Walsh, who was sitting in the front, former Sinn Féin or current Sinn Féin councillor, shared a cell with Bobby Sands, was one of the first to stand up and to tell us to leave, tell us to have our own event. He shared a cell with Bobby Sands. It's quite it was quite an unbelievable experience, and we expected some form of apology from Sinn Féin, but we haven't received any apology. Instead, the very next day after we were thrown out of the event, Mary Lou McDonald and Michelle O'Neill went to go pay another PA ambassador a visit, Hassam Zomra, in London, for another photo op, to kind of guarantee their token Palestinians, to justify them going to the White House.
And Mary Lou McDonald is the president of Sinn Féin, and Michelle O'Neill is her deputy, who is also the newly installed First Minister in Northern Ireland. Farrah, I also, on my social media, have called for Sinn Féin leaders to stay away from the White House at the upcoming St. Patrick's Day celebration, which is a big annual bash when all the Irish politicians go to the White House. And at least one party, the SDLP, their leader, Colm Eastwood, has said he would stay away and that he couldn't stomach going to the White House. But some of the reactions I've gotten from a few people, I've had a lot of support for my position, as have you. But I have had some criticism, and people have said, well, Sinn Féin is one of the strongest and most vocal supporters for the Palestinian people over the years. So aren't you being unfair to them by making this demand when they've been some of the most vocal critics of Israel over the year? I'm just curious how you respond to that.
I don't think it's asking too much at all. I think it's actually quite preposterous that in the time of a genocide, you would go to celebrate any holiday, let it be St. Patrick's, Christmas, or whatever holiday it may be. We saw in Bethlehem, in the church of Nativity, they were obviously not celebrating Christmas for obvious reasons, and I don't think it's a big demand to ask Sinn Féin to boycott St. Patrick's Day at the White House, and also in addition to that as well. This is kind of one of the sole opportunities to really amplify kind of Irish dissent on this. The annual celebrations of St. Patrick's Day would send a clearer message than physically being there and asking for a ceasefire in person.
I want to bring our colleague Dave in as well. Dave, what can you say about the role of Sinn Féin and right now in terms of its, what Farrah was just saying about its support of genocide, Joe? How can you assess the current kind of political state of things right now in Ireland?
Well, I think it's very depressing that somebody like Fianna Walsh, who Farrah has just mentioned, the man who was sitting in the front row, was a Sinn Féin councillor, was the first person, as Farrah has said, to stand up and say, I think his precise words were, go and have your own event. Fianna Walsh runs or has been involved in running a centre in Belfast dedicated to James Connolly, who was a revered figure in Irish history. James Connolly was a famous socialist, a famous internationalist. He took part in the 1916 and was executed for his role in the 1916 Easter Rising in Dublin. I can't imagine that James Connolly would have turned around to a Palestinian and say, go and have your own event. Mm-hmm. Sinn Féin's position, unfortunately, has weakened considerably. A few days ago, I did a little bit of digging on the Sinn Féin website. I looked up back issues of An Phoblacht, the weekly newspaper that Sinn Féin publishes. I found a fascinating article from 1998 in which Sinn Féin offered a devastating critique of the Oslo Accords, which were signed a few years earlier between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization. The article on An Phoblacht complained that Palestinians were being told that they have to make do with, quote unquote, occasional scraps. Why can't Sinn Féin boycott the White House? What would it lose from boycotting the White House? Sinn Féin has just taken over the position of First Minister in the north of Ireland. If Michelle O'Neill, the Sinn Féin First Minister, did not go to the White House, refused to shake hands with Joe Biden on St. Patrick's Day, she would gain enormous credibility as somebody who is prepared to stand up for the Palestinian people, to stand up for Palestinian rights. Why is she not prepared to do that? Why is Mary Lou MacDonald in Dublin, her colleague in Dublin, who's the leader of the largest party in Ireland, why is she not prepared to take a stand in support of Palestinians at a time when they are going through a genocide?
David, you know this, but I want our viewers to know this, and certainly as a Palestinian, there is no country where I feel, and we feel, more visceral and heartfelt support than in Ireland and the Irish people. And I've spent quite a lot of time in Ireland. It's been a few years, but I've had a chance to spend a lot of time in Ireland, both in the north and the south. And I can speak to that love and solidarity directly. And we certainly feel it online as well. And I can say that we've heard a great deal from people in Ireland, north and south, who want Sinn Féin to listen to Farrah and other Palestinians in Ireland and stay away from the White House. My question, perhaps for both of you, is this strong popular solidarity and sentiment with Palestine translating into policy from the Irish government? Does the Irish government stand out among, say, countries in Europe in terms of its policies? We have seen a bit more criticism from the Irish government. Today, I believe the Irish government, along with the government of Spain, released a letter calling on the European Union to review its relationship with Israel in light of the crimes that are going on. But my question is Ireland doing enough? Could it be doing more? I don't know, perhaps maybe Farrah would like to start, and I'd love to hear what you think, Dave.
No, I don't think the Irish government is doing near enough what it could be doing, especially in terms of the beginning of the genocide from October. Michael Martin actually did a visit. He visited settlements, did a whole propaganda photo shoot. He was essentially used as a propaganda tool that has fueled the ongoing slaughter of Palestinians in Gaza. And I really feel strongly that not only could the Irish government be doing more, but all kind of parties along the Irish political spectrum could be doing a lot more.
Dave, do you want to jump in?
Sure. Yeah. Maybe just explain very briefly for people who are not from Ireland. Sinn Féin is the largest party in Ireland at the moment. It's the lead government party in the north. However, it's in opposition in the south of Ireland. Ireland, of course, is a country that was partitioned by Britain just over a century ago. In the Dublin government, I won't go into too much detail about this, but it's composed of two right-wing parties called Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and the Green Party, which has become increasingly right-wing in recent years. Just today, the Irish Taoiseach, the Prime Minister Leo Varadkar, sent a joint letter to the European Commission with his Spanish counterpart, Pedro Sanchez. And in that letter, they called for an urgent review of the main contract between the European Union and Israel, which is called the Association Agreement. First of all, it's interesting that Leo Varadkar is using the word urgent, because he has used the word urgent before in relation to Israel. In 2013, Leo Varadkar was actually Ireland's transport minister. And at that time, he argued that an aviation agreement between Ireland and Israel should come into effect as, quote unquote, a matter of urgency. So at that time, he felt that it was actually urgent to embrace Israel more than Ireland had done, that it was urgent to increase trade relations and economic relations with Israel. He seems to be taking a slightly different approach now, so that is welcome. However, is this really enough? In my opinion, it's not. This agreement that I mentioned, the association agreement between the European Union and Israel, came into effect in the year 2000, so that's 24 years ago now. Article 2 of that agreement says that the relations between the European Union and Israel are conditional on respect for human rights. Every single day since that agreement has come into effect, Israel has denied basic rights to the Palestinian people. Not only has the European Union refused to sanction Israel, it has actually hugged Israel tighter over those 24 years. Now, Leo Varadkar is only asking for an urgent review at this point. He has not specified what should happen if Israel is found to be in breach of that agreement. And in any event, Leo Varadkar should be politically astute enough to know a little bit about the dynamics in Brussels. He's been here many times. In all likelihood, the countries in the European Union, such as Hungary, such as Poland, such as Germany, such as the Czech Republic, will block any sanctions against Israel. They've always done so. They did so very, very recently when an effort was made to have sanctions introduced against only 4 so-called extreme settlers, Israeli settlers. That was blocked by that initiative was blocked by Poland and Hungary, if memory serves me correct. So the likelihood that the European Union is going to sanction Israel is extremely, extremely small at this point. So what Ireland really needs to do, it can do this, and perhaps it can do this together with Spain, is to take steps on its own against Israel, to introduce trade sanctions against Israel. The record, unfortunately, of Leo Varadkar and his party called Fine Gael is terrible in this. They've actually, one of the most anti-democratic things that Leo Varadkar and his party have ever done, and this is talking about all in all policy areas, not just with regards to Palestine, is a few years ago, the Irish Parliament, the Oireachtas, both houses in the Oireachtas voted by a significant majority to ban goods from Israel's settlements. Even though that was approved by both houses in the Oireachtas, it was actually vetoed by Leo Varadkar and his party. That in an extremely anti-democratic way. So what I would call, if Leo Varadkar or anybody else from his party are listening tonight, what I would say to them is stop blocking that initiative. Ban that legislation has already been approved by both houses in the Irish Parliament. You can take measures tomorrow to ban goods from Israel's settlements. And there are other things you can do, perhaps in consultation with like-minded countries like Spain and Belgium, who seem to be saying similar things to Ireland. We know that the European Union is not going to introduce sanctions against Israel anytime soon. We know that the European Union has supported this genocide in Gaza. And the lady to whom that letter was addressed, Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, has said that she fully supports Israel's war against Gaza. We know there's no point in putting any hope in her. It's necessary for Ireland and perhaps to take action on its own, perhaps in consultation in tandem with Spain, and perhaps in partnership with other countries like Belgium?
Yeah, Farrah, I've got a question for you about the Palestinian Authority. I mean, I found it really interesting at the beginning of that clip how you made a point of criticizing, and brave actually, how you made the point of criticizing the Palestinian Authority's Irish representative who was speaking on stage that night, Jilan Abdul Majid. And could you talk about the PA's role in all this? Because I didn't know that what you mentioned earlier about one of Sinn Féin's leaders going to speak to Hossam Zumlot, the PA's representative in London. And, you know, Hossam Zumlot is very embedded in it has to be said, he's very embedded in the Palestine Solidarity movement in Britain. You know, to me, in my view, this is a real problem that the British Palestine Solidarity movement has, is it has this, I mean, the best thing you could say about it is it's a kind of rose-tinted view of the Palestinian Authority, that it's, oh, well, it's, you know, it's not perfect, but it's Palestinian at the end of the day. But you made the point of saying, look, they're not, you know, really, the Palestinian Authority is part of the Israeli occupation, that is its role.
And we do get, just Asa, if I can add to the question, and I get this sometimes because, you know, I won't say criticize, I say I describe the Palestinian Authority's role. And sometimes I'll get people saying to me, oh, you know, you shouldn't focus on this now. It's divisive. We should all be having a united front. So I hear that, and I'd love to know what Farrah thinks of your question, Asa.
Yeah, so we decided to address first and foremost the ambassador being obviously a mouthpiece of the Palestinian Authority, because the Palestinian Authority, you know, like I said in the clip, you know, haven't had an election since 2006. They're brazenly corrupt. They embezzle public funds. They you know, they're subcontractors of the illegal Israeli occupation, and they work hand in hand with Israel. When we talk about the Palestinian Authority and Israel, they're two sides of the same coin. And even just a few weeks ago, we saw Israeli soldiers disguised as Palestinians invading a hospital in Jenin, and opening and murdering Palestinian patients whilst in hospital beds. And this is, you know, results of PA and Israeli security coordination, and bringing any PA mouthpiece to an event.
Can I just add in? Sorry, Farrah. Can I just butt into just point out that what you're saying there is completely true, because it is in, people don't a lot of people maybe in the West don't realize this. It is in the job description of the Palestinian Authority, police, security forces, undercover officers, all of their armed forces. It is in their job description. They have to coordinate with the Israeli occupation forces. And when the Israeli occupation forces enters an area like Jenin, like a refugee camp, like Ramallah, they have to withdraw and coordinate with the Israeli occupation forces. That is part of their job role ever since they were founded.
No, 100%. And for Sinn Féin to give a platform for the Palestinian Authority, who, you know, are another arm of Israel, they might as well invite, you know, Netanyahu, or invite someone else complicit in this genocide, because the PA is equally as complicit. The Palestinian Authority, and to the answer what you said, what you had mentioned, Ali, to keep you know, one of the biggest responses from that video is from non-Palestinians telling me, as a Palestinian, you should be unified right now. The PA aren't the focus. They're exactly the focus, because they're equally complicit in this genocide. This genocide would not be happening on this scale without Palestinian Authority security coordination. And I felt it very, very important to mention, because it often does get overlooked. And they obviously work hand in hand in oppressing Palestinians.
Well, we're going to leave it right there. Thank you so much, Farrah Koutteineh, and our colleague David Cronin. Farrah, we hope you'll keep us up to date with all of your activism. I know that you won't be stopping anytime soon, and thank you for that. And I encourage our viewers and listeners to follow Key 48's work on Instagram. It's at Key, Key, 48 Return. That's at Key 48 Return on Instagram. Farrah, where else can our viewers and listeners find your work? I know you write for the New Arab as well.
It's mainly just on Key 48 Return and the New Arab for now. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Farrah. And David Cronin, our wonderful esteemed colleague, thank you for all the work that you constantly do. I'm glad that that you finally made it on. We were able to lure you on to the EI live stream, so we'll have you back very soon. Thanks,
Thank
Farrah
you
and
both.
David.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you both.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit like, leave a comment. These engagements help us with the YouTube algorithm, and it helps us to get around Silicon Valley censorship as much as possible. It does make a difference. You can also support our journalism by going to electronicintifada.net and clicking on donate now. Thank you.